Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker.
Thank you. I call the member for Whitsunday.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. Well, Mr Speaker, it's the first time I've rose in the House since becoming the independent member for Whitsunday to speak on a bill before the House, and it's an issue that's certainly polarising for a lot of people. But I'd like to cut to the chase here, Mr Acting Speaker. What we have here, thanks to the member for Hill, formerly the member for Dalrymple, and I think it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge, whilst we haven't always agreed on everything, I have to say, Mr Speaker, that the member for Hill has been patient and then some to see today come before the House and this bill come before the House. And a lot of people, no matter who they vote for in North Queensland, have been waiting to see where this lands here on George Street. And there is no doubt in my mind that what we have here is a North Queensland solution to a North Queensland problem. Now, I was on that committee, Mr Acting Speaker, Mr Deputy Speaker, that travelled around North and far North Queensland. We heard from Mr Ramsamy, as my neighbouring colleague, the member for Moranni, has alluded to, Mr Tonga, Mr Lever, of course, who's one of the most foremost authorities on crocodile management in the nation, perhaps second only to Professor Graham Webb from Crocodilus Park in Darwin, who we also went and visited as part of our deliberations in examining the bill that is before the House. And there is no doubt that people are more and more scared of a fatality, of a road croc taking a tourist, taking a local. No matter who or where we sit on the political spectrum, Mr Acting Speaker, the first job of anyone coming into this place, surely, is to look after the citizens of Queensland and visitors to our state, to protect our citizens. Now, I appreciate the economic considerations. We've heard that from different people in the crocodile farming sector in terms of our responsibilities internationally to CITES and so what. It's a bit like comparing our obligations to Paris. What about us? What about our kids? What about our tourists? Now, Mr Acting Speaker, I can tell you, and honourable members here tonight in the House, that the chairman of Tourism Whitsunday, Al Grundy, told me some time ago they've even seen crocodiles at Blue Pearl Bay on Hayman Island, and nobody wants to talk about it. Well, I'm going to talk about it in the chamber here tonight because it's in the public interest. Now, those investors are pouring millions and millions into rebuilding our tourist resorts in the Whitsundays, the place that I call paradise. Yet there is a menace out there, and a growing menace. No one wants to knock out an entire species. I don't want to do that. No one wants that. I take the interjection from the leader of the KAP, the member for Traeger. No one in their right mind wants that. They were shot at, as we all know, Mr Acting Speaker, almost to extinction until things turned around in 1974. So consequently, me and my generation, we grew up in North Mackay, not even thinking about crocodiles, Mr Acting Speaker, and I'm sure that resonates with you, with due respects. And I hear the interjection from the member for Moranni, McCready's Creek, forming part of the southern boundary of my electorate. And I heard what the member for Moranni had to say about that crocodile that is part of folklore that was shot on the banks of the Pioneer River, or from the banks of the Pioneer River many, many moons ago. And there are people in my electorate today who remember the two girls going to school at Pindi Pindi many, many moons ago, and the tragic consequences of what happened on that particular day. Now, I know this is a long time forward now as we go into a new century and a new era, and we have an industry there which we need to consider and foster. But I go back to what was said by those who came before the committee, Tourism Tropical North Queensland, the regional tourism body. And I go back to their overview. What did they say? And I quote, "The current approach is not working for our community," end of quote. So with great respect to the Minister for Agriculture, that came from the regional tourism body, and remember, between the Whitsundays and the far north, we're basically it when it comes to the Great Barrier Reef. With due respects to other destinations, you can look at the numbers, and there is no doubt that if there is an incident, whether it's at 4 Mile Beach at Port Douglas, in the electorate of Cook, or at Palm Cove, or at Mission Beach, or on the Strand in Townsville, or in Airlie Beach, it will lead to catastrophic consequences for the tourism industry in our state. Now, recently, of course, anyone who follows the tourism industry in Queensland, I would have thought that's just about everyone, if not everyone in this chamber, Mr Speaker, it's something like $60 billion that was the value placed on the Great Barrier Reef. And I'll come back to what I said a moment ago. Imagine that, a crocodile, not in an estuary, not even at the boat ramp, swimming at Blue Pearl Bay on Hayman Island, where people go diving looking for Nemo and Dory. Imagine the shock, Mr Acting Speaker, if you saw one of them coming down at you. I do not want to have to take a phone call, Mr Acting Speaker, from the BBC or CNN as we go into damage control. You'll never, ever hear the end of it. The local tourism body in the far north, that is Tourism Port Douglas and Daintree, TPDD, what did they say to the committee? This is what they said, and I quote, "Negative publicity surrounding crocodile sightings and attacks in the mainstream and social media contributes to a perceived increasing risk and resulting diminishing safety of our beaches, which poses a potentially devastating impact on our tourism industry through lost visitation and reduced length of stay." End of quote. Conservation through commerce. I don't want to see people taken by crocodiles, Deputy Speaker. No one wants that. No one wants that at all. Back home, Deputy Speaker, the people of Tourism Whitsundays probably won't like what I've had to say here tonight in this debate. I don't want to scare the tourists. But just recently, we've had crocodiles off Cannonvale Beach again, sighted. More and more sightings. And you can't just sit back and do nothing. This committee did good work, Mr Speaker. The public hearings in Port Douglas and Cairns and Townsville and Mackay. All North Queensland members in this chamber, particularly those members north of the Tropic of Capricorn, should be putting public safety at the top of their priorities in this debate. I look forward to seeing how the member for Burdekin votes on this, particularly, Deputy Speaker. I wouldn't be the only one. I've got to say, before the last state election, we saw the member for Clayfield and the crossbench particularly be interested in this. Member for Clayfield, as the leader of the LNP at the time, coming to my electorate, hearing the concerns of John Galea, co-patron alongside myself and wife Gay of the IMEOSF Lifesaving Club. And Mr Galea made it very clear that these concerns are real. Don't drop the C word, no culling. I've not advocated a free-for-all at all, Deputy Speaker. Never. Never have and never will. No one has. And I take the interjection from my crossbench colleagues. But I come back to public safety being of paramount importance. It's the first job of anyone that comes into this place, surely. There's a few crocodiles on George Street. But these are the ones that really concern me. And as the member for Traeger has just said, people's lives at stake, as well as our much-vaunted tourism industry. I want to thank everybody who came to those public hearings, Mr Acting Speaker, in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay and Port Douglas. It was interesting to see the Whitsunday Regional Council not taking any interest in this. They did not provide a submission, as I recall. They didn't turn up. And just recently they started talking about crocodiles in the Proserpine River on the back of myself trying to save the Wilson Beach swimming enclosure. Our lifestyle has been turned upside down. We've lost what we used to enjoy. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute this provides an ironclad guarantee, Deputy Speaker. No one is suggesting that either. I take the interjection from the member for Hinchinbrook. But the risk is going up and up and up and up. And what are we going to do? Just sit around and do nothing? Sit on our gluteus maximus and come up with a big fat zero? I don't think so.
Preserve the species through commerce.
And again, I'll take back to the interjection of the member for Moranni. Through commerce, we can preserve the species. The crocodiles are there to be respected. Our Indigenous people, our First Australians, they are concerned. We heard the comments from Mr Ramsamy at the public hearing in Mackay. So many people are expecting us to do something about it. Needless to say, I support the bill.
I call the member for Hill.